I'm here for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to get more money in your bank account. I'm going to show you how you can get all the money you need to buy apartment complexes, commercial property, or single family homes, regardless of your credit or financial situation. I know some folks are just getting started, and I always have folks that just getting started, and I have other folks that are out doing deals. And what I'm going to show you is who should use private lenders. If you're a beginner, you typically take the hardest way to fund your deal. You go to a bank, and you're going to see here shortly that that is the toughest way to do your deals. I'm going to show you the easiest way and the cheapest way and the best way for you to go fund deals. If you're an intermediate real estate investor, you can do a handful of deals and the lending institutions will shut you off. How do I know that one? It's happened to me a handful of times. And then I got tired of that. And that's where I really embraced getting private money from private individuals. And then if you're an experienced real estate investor, maybe you're putting your own money in the deals and there's actually a better use for your money. What I'm going to train you on is the best, the easiest, the cheapest, and the safest way to fund your deals. Isn't that what you're all looking for? The best, the easiest, the cheapest, and the safest. There's no other funding source that can say that. But when you get private lending, you can. I was out in the corporate world. I got a quarter century in corporate America. The last 17 and a half years, I was in aerospace. And when you see a plane go over at night, those flashing lights was my department. I had about 60 folks working for me. Also the cockpit lights up in where the pilot's at, did the lights there and for my team. And also I did acquisitions in Europe. And also I implemented 5 multi-million-dollar, multi-state, multi-plant implementation programs for 3 different companies. I was a leader on those. And when I got done with each one of those, it had dramatically improved the company. And in one company, from a program that I recommended, it tripled their cash flow and doubled their pre-tax earnings. And in another company, I was the only one to get a bonus that year, I understand. So I was successful in corporate America, but I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I realized that I needed to change my life. I was living in a little 2-bedroom apartment at that time. And I saw my family members who had worked all their life. When they retired at virtually poverty level. And I thought, man, I don't want that to happen to me. And so it got me thinking about, I needed to change things, but I didn't know how. And I had this old beat up car that I needed to put some repair work into, but I put that on the back burner. I was busy, focused on other things. And one night on a first date, this car paid me back. You know, it's going to be an ugly story here in a minute, right? Well, what happened was at the end of the date with this lady, I hopped out of the car and I started to walk her up to the door of her apartment complex. And I heard something. I turned around and looked, and my car had burst into flames. Now, if we were together, somebody in the room would yell out hot date. Well, it's more like first and last date. Can you imagine how embarrassing it was having her holding her hands and watching the fireman put my car out? Here's this successful manager, and he couldn't even get a good car. Kept me frustrated with my life, not knowing what to do. I looked into franchises, but they take money, and I couldn't do that. So I decided to take my whole federal tax return one year and plunk it down on lottery tickets. Yeah, you got it. Not the sharpest tool in the shed, right? Lost on every ticket, kept me broke, kept me frustrated. One night I was worried about, what I was going to do with my life. And at 2:00 in the morning, I got up and I turned on the TV and started to channel surf. And I hit one of these real estate infomercials, and it got my attention. I thought, maybe that's the answer to my situation. And so at 2:00 in the morning, I picked up the phone and I ordered that home study system and became enthralled with real estate. And that year, I bought my first 2 properties, real estate properties, investment properties. Next year, 5, then 18. Since that point in time, I've done hundreds of real estate deals. Half the deals I do are without monthly payments. How would you like to do deals and not have to worry about monthly payments? Would that work for you? I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay. It'll blow you away. Just think about having $1 million loaned to you and you don't have to worry about monthly payments. It's huge, it's huge. I want to talk to you about the humorous failures that I had going on. Wouldn't it be better that if we had phenomenal success? it's all about choices. It was my choice not to get my car fixed in a timely manner. It was my choice, to get my lottery tickets. I, lost on every one. And then it was my choice to get into real estate, and that changed the rest of my life. And so I hope this training here changes your life for the better. Who am I and why should you trust me? Well, this is my family. This is my why. On the left there, girl in the blue, that's Brittany. She is a high school teacher, and she teaches college classes too. Married, her husband's name's Scott, and they have 2 children, my grandchildren, and they are awesome. The band there, you see a box around a boy? Well, that boy is my son, and he went to college, and he's marching in the Rose Bowl parade. His freshman year, they marched in the Rose Bowl parade, and that's a picture I got to take of my boy marching in the Rose Bowl parade. And he's got his bachelor's degree. Brittany's got her master's degree, and then the couple over there, that's my daughter Wendy, and she's a nurse practitioner, and she's also got her PhD. And she is now the assistant dean of nursing at a major university. And her husband, John, there, he's got his own business. He's doing great. And then that's their son there, my grandson, JC. And how would you like to sit on the patio and eat ice cream every day? That kid's got it made. Well, being a real estate investor, you can do some of that too. So what I'm going to get into today, just to kind of give you a picture of where I'm going with this, I'm going to show you how to get massive funds for your real estate deals. That's what's happening when Stacy's talking about there, and she got that PPM. She's got the one where you can advertise, and it is where she can live, get unlimited money. So it's just awesome. I'm going to talk to you about that here right after the break. How do you get the lenders to the closing table? I'm going to cover that. I have a system for you residential folks where you could buy 5 properties a month with 0 marketing cost and very little work. And it's going to blow you away. So I also, what I'm teaching, especially on the SEC stuff, that's for you commercial folks. So cover everybody. Legal training for your state. I'm not an attorney, nor do I give legal advice, but I can teach it. And so what I'm going to do right after the break is I'm going to get into the legal stuff. I hired an SEC attorney to research every state and Canada. And when he got done, he said, "Hey, I want to thank you." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "I'm moving into my new house and you just paid for it." That's not what you want to hear from anybody, but it gives you the moral obligation and the dedication I had to you to where I could teach that. The important thing about what I'm talking about right here is with private lending, it's like a sporting event where you got the fundamentals in a sporting event, but you also have a rule book. And so today I'm giving you both. You got your funding out of order, I bet. And I will shock you with that. You think you do, but there's 3 steps involved. And I think you'll get a stark look at reality of when I go through that training. Using IRAs to your advantage. My business changed dramatically when I started using folks' IRAs. In fact, I got so much money, I couldn't spend it all. And I hired a guy to spend it for me. What happened was he had worked in corporate America a good portion of his life. And he at first bought a side-by-side double, and he would live in one half with his wife, and he'd rent out the other side, obviously. And then in time, they saved up their money and they could buy a ranch house, which they live in now. And so he didn't have very much real estate education on what we do. Well, what happened was when I had all this money, I thought maybe this guy could help me. I was looking for somebody to hire. And so we had a meeting, and he was enthralled with that. And using my techniques on how to buy property, because I showed him my system on how to buy, and I showed him my system on how to get money. But first it was how to buy, because I already had all the money that I can handle right at that point. And he bought me from mid-September to Christmas that year, he bought me 21 houses. And then from New Year's to August, he bought another 48. So my business really skyrocketed at that point. So I've got a gift for you. I have this book that I'm going to give you today. It's the secret $1 million technique to get private money from folks that you know. That's one of my preferred way to start out, but some of you might be in the NFL club. No friends left. I'll take care of you too. Okay. So this is how to get all the money you need to buy property. This I sell on Amazon. You're getting it for free. So you're getting two books. And there, take a screenshot of this. I don't want you to go there now. I need to have you focus on my training so you don't miss anything. I'm going to go quickly here. So it's mygreenbooksite.wordpress.com. Take a screenshot. I'm going to move on, but don't go out to that link till we're done today. Okay. Right now, you're going to get the facts on how to easily, simply, and safely and cheaply fund your real estate deals. I hope you're ready. Here we go. I need to tell you where I got started at. I started out up here at banks, and they were friendly to real estate investors. But one day the regulators came in, took a look at the bank's books, and said, you cannot do those type of loans anymore. And myself, along with all the other folks that were creative real estate investors, got shut down in 24 hours. And so I had to do something else. I went over and I got a line of credit. And when you max that out, you shut your own business down. And every year they can call that thing due. And this business takes a lot of money. So, you know, maybe you can't even do a deal with your credit line. Okay. And then hard money lenders, they're the most expensive one on the chart here. I did 16 deals in eight weeks with hard money lenders. Wow, that was rough. So I wanted to do something else, and I had to figure things out. And that's how I moved into private money. Now I got creative financing over there, and you're saying, well, Alan, why in the world would you put that up there? We all do that. Why would that line up with what I'm talking about? Well, if you go out and you do a deal, you find a deal that maybe it's a deal of the century for you, or you beginners, your first deal, and you don't have the funds to do it because the bank won't give you the money, and neither a hard money lender. You can't get a line of credit. You know, I know, and then you got to walk away from the deal. I never want you to walk away from a deal. That's the importance of private money, because with private money, it's like ordering pizza. You can pick up the phone and order money. And so I never want you to get shut down on that. You are not in control of your financing if you go to banks, you're looking for a line of credit or have a line of credit, or you're dealing with a hard money lender, or you're doing creative financing and you're using those to fund it. You are not in control of your financing. And I want you to be in control. Here's what I find out when I go all over the nation. I'll have people raise their hand and tell me how many of you are going to banks. And what I'll find out is that 85% of the room will raise their hand before they meet me. And so I have to assume that most all of you are going to banks or think you're going to go to banks. Well, it is one of the roughest way to get money. And I'm going to show you the easiest way, guaranteed. So you can lose some of the best deals because somebody comes along and beat you, and they buy it for all cash. The banks won't let you go 100% financing, so you got to have some money down. They charge points and loan fees, and granted, they aren't high, but they're still eroding the profit base. Private lending is the cheapest way to fund your deals. Why? Because it's an all cash deal. They won't finance some unusual deals. I'll show you some of my deals they wouldn't have touched that I made tens of thousands of dollars on. They like monthly payments. I told you can do deals without monthly payments if you follow my program that I'm going to teach you today. They take time. I had a duplex that I wanted to buy way back when I was doing business with banks, and my credit's okay, place appraised okay. It took the bank 4.5 months to make up their mind. That is crazy. I could have lost the deal. Today, I'm getting an offer accepted on a Monday, and I can own the property by Friday the same week, and I've done it. You got no relationship with the bank, but you think you do. You're lulled into a sense of security because you got somebody's name and their business card. And I'm here to tell you, you got air. You got nothing, because they can quit, retire, get laid off, get promoted, and you got to start all over again. Or they change the rules like they did on me. You are disqualified from borrowing when you have too many properties. What's wrong with that picture? Shouldn't you be the master of how many properties you go out and buy? You sure should. I'll tell you what, I've been shut down 3 times. 2 times 2 times. It was because I had 4 properties with this bank and their internal rules changed and I got shut down after 4 properties. Nothing changed in my life. It was all internal in the bank. When I quit my JOB, the bank quit me. So, and actually that was a blessing when that I quit my job. I'll talk to you about it in a second. So your income doesn't satisfy the bank, they aren't going to touch you. Your credit doesn't satisfy the bank, they aren't going to touch you. Private lenders never look at that stuff, never look at it. And when you quit your job, the bank will quit you like they did on me. Getting a loan from a bank, what's the process? Well, you know, they want all this paperwork, W-2s and check stubs and 2 years of that and all kinds of stuff. You know, and so what you do is you take this pile of paper into the bank and then you go back home and you wait and you wait and you wait. Finally, the phone rings and it's the bank and they lost a piece of paper. So just slows things down some more. So let's say you finally get the loan. What do you have to do on your second property with a bank? You got to jump through all those hoops again. Let me show you a better way. This is my way. I borrow money from a private individual. Private individual. I buy, fix some property with that money. And what'll happen is I make a profit and the private lender will get all their principal and accrued interest back. And what will happen, they will call me up and they'll say, hey, I got my money back. I don't want my money back. I want you to keep it out there and keep it working. I want to keep getting that nice interest rate that you're giving me. You see, the day you sell a property, your next loan is waiting for you and the lender is begging you to take their money. Have you ever had a bank beg you to take their money? No, but private lenders do. And you can build an empire on buying and fixing and doing it again and again and again. Look, I'm known, like I said before, the guy that cracked the code on private money, and you can do the same by just learning a few simple things that I've done. Hard money lenders, sometimes they call themselves private lenders. Remember on that chart I showed you on banks and lines of credit? Let's talk about this. Hard money lenders set the rules, just like a bank, just like a bank. But you, using private lenders, you get to set the rules. And that's a huge, huge difference. It's gigantic. And the thing of it is when I speak, when I'm going into an event, like back when I went into Stacy's and all that, there'll be booths outside the door. And in those booths are hard money lenders, but they have a sign up that says private lenders. I was up in Toledo in November, and I saw that. And so they have, rather than saying hard money lenders, they say private lenders, but that's not true. A private lender is somebody that doesn't set the rules. With a hard money lenders, they set the rules and they've got those booths, and nothing against that. In fact, I would encourage you to become a hard money lender by getting lenders. Okay. And setting up another stream of income out there. I have a number of students doing that. So what does a private lender look like? Well, my first private lender looked like my mom, because it was. I'm coming up through my real estate education, and I hear this thing about hard money lenders and private lenders, and I thought the terms were interchangeable, but they're not. They're distinctly different, like I just showed you. And so I realized that I could borrow money from my mom. Now, she was getting a paltry low rate of return on a bank CD, and she had come into some money when Dad passed away, and so she didn't know what to do with it, so she figured out she could put it on a bank CD, and she's really tickled. She would drive 45 minutes one way just to get a few pennies more on a bank CD. Well, I'm coming up through my real estate education. I hear this thing about hard money lenders and private lenders, and I thought they were the same, and they're distinctly different, like I said. So when I went back to Mom, now listen to this, because this is how I structure deals, is I said, look, Mom, you're getting this paltry low rate of return on a bank CD. I can pay you 3, 4, 5 times what you're getting on that bank CD. I'll give you a mortgage, a promissory note, hazard insurance, lender title insurance, and a disclosure. And Mom jumped for joy. And I instantly had my first private lender. And At that point, I had a second private lender. His name was Ed, and he invited me over to his house. I sit down at his kitchen table. I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell you I couldn't answer all these questions because I was new at it. But by the time I got done, he agreed to loan me money. And so I had two private lenders. Now, you think I would embrace private lending, but I didn't see the power and the potential at that juncture in my life. Why? Because like probably most of you, I was going down to the corner bank and getting my loans. And it took me 4 years. And then the company had a layoff and I volunteered. I was the first person in HR because I wanted to become a full-time real estate investor. And so I stepped out as a full-time real estate investor. And just like that, the bank shut me off. Now, I was with that bank for a lot of years and I had no inkling that they would shut me off. I thought, this was great. They'd be there for me, but they weren't. And so I ran into a negative $10,000 a month cash flow problem. There was a downturn in the rental market. I had to evict some folks, and then I had that problem. So I had to do something. I sure didn't want to go back to corporate America. I was done after a quarter century in corporate America. I was done with that. I wanted to become a real estate investor. I had my passion for that. And so what happened was I thought back about Mom and Ed, and I realized that the answer to my situation is to embrace this private lender concept and go full bore with it. Now I could have gone around and asked people one-on-one, and you can make millions of dollars doing that. What I decided to do, though, is to have a group meeting. And so I was fairly skilled at PowerPoint presentations in corporate America. In fact, I flew to London once, England, and put on a 20-minute presentation. And so I thought, I'll call this meeting. Now, you got to realize I didn't know if I was going to be in an echo chamber that morning or if there'd be 30, 40, 50 folks in the room. And what happened was it was 18 people showed up. And that's about typical for what I do. And so I got in front of everybody and I told them about my real estate business. I told them about my dreams, my aspirations. I showed them those PowerPoint slides that I had created. And I just flat asked them to loan me money, and it worked. And it worked so good, I did it the next month. Had about the same size group show up, did it all over again. And a couple months later, I added it up and I had $1 million to go buy property. And that changed my life. Saved me from going back to corporate America and changed my life. So I started out with a trickle of money, which was Mom and Ed, the way I look at it. And then 4 years later, I had these 2 luncheons and I had a river of money. And what I'm going to teach you here in a little bit is when I had a flood of money, where I had so much money I couldn't spend it all. And what was the catalyst? I told you about the IRA being that, but there's more to it that you need to know. When I tapped into the 401k money, I hired a guy to go spend it for me out there. So here's the catalyst. If you know somebody that has quit, retired, or gotten laid off, you need to take a screenshot of that because that's a critical slide. And somebody has a dormant, what I call a dormant 401k, they can roll that money over into a self-directed IRA. And then that IRA, those lenders can loan the money to you. So you need to find a company that is friendly to us real estate investors. For full disclosure, I'll give you the one I work with. I talk to a lot of them. I'm not up here promoting any one, but I work with Equity Trust. They're here in Ohio. So there's also another good one that in the Carolinas, that's American IRA. And there's other ones out there. You can go out on the internet and research them. Some have check writing capabilities. Other ones is where you got to turn in documents and move the money. I think that one's safer. That's what I have. That's what I've always had. So the point here is that when I started out, I was going to banks. And then along the way, I learned about hard money lenders and lines of credit. And then after that, I learned about private money. And what happened was with my business was it wasn't till I realized I could borrow money from people that had 401ks. And I got to tell you, that was a few years after I got started, where I could borrow money from 401ks to where my business exploded. Now, why is this important to you? You need to start with this information right here. Get out there and look for people that have a dormant 401k that has quit, retired, or gotten laid off. That's why it's dormant. They've quit, they retired, or they got laid off, and they can then move that that 401k. They can't before that because there's rules that the companies have that you can't pull the money out unless you're using it for education or to buy your first house, something like that, depending on their rules. But once they've quit, retired, or getting laid off, they can move that 401k into a self-directed IRA. And that's when my business exploded. It shocked me that year because people just kept flooding more money and more money and more money to me. And it was amazing. It rocked. It was great. So you convert the 401k into a self-directed IRA. And when they had the money in a 401k, they weren't getting monthly payments. So it's natural when they move it into a self-directed IRA that many of them don't need monthly payments. And so they want that money to grow. Now, if it's a person that's retired, they're going to want monthly payments, but they still have a bigger chunk of money out there to loan you. And so you can just do the monthly payments with them. But in many cases, you can do no monthly payments out there. It'll change your business to the better. You like the idea of not having monthly mortgage payments? I would think so. Now, I told you I had a system on how to buy 5 to 7 properties a month. Let me share this with you right now. I was at a closing, and sitting across the table from me was a guy who looked like a little kid. He was a brand new realtor, and he just graduated from college. And it was his second closing, but he didn't do anything to get the closing. His goal was to come in and pick up the check. They sent him in to go pick up the check. And so I got talking to him. His name's Brad. And I thought, maybe this guy could help me in my business. I was looking for a system where I could buy a high volume of property. And so I wanted somebody that could follow directions. What was happening to me prior to Brad was I'd get a call in the morning at 9 o'clock, and I'd go look at a house, and then from one realtor, and then 1 in the afternoon, another realtor would call me. I'd go out and look at that house. And then at 7 o'clock at night, another realtor would call me, and I'd go out and look at that house. And so I was doing a lot of running around. I wanted to focus on this. So listen how this thing came together for me. I wanted somebody who can follow directions, which means that I wanted a 3-bedroom, or in Ohio here, we got older houses where they got a living room and a dining room. And I could take the dining room and put a closet and a door. And for $500, I got a 3rd bedroom on these 2-bedroom houses. And so I did a lot of that. So I wanted somebody that I'd like, because I was going to be riding around the car with him in the afternoon. And so I decided that we would ride around Friday afternoon. Now he would sort out all the new properties that or the empty properties, REOs, that are hitting the paperwork. And so we rode around from 5:30 to or 1:30 to 4:30, and he'd have it all worked out, and we'd loop through the town. And I gave him my target property criteria that I wanted: empty house and not in the war zone, something I could sell. And so the way it worked out in my area was there'd be 6 to 10 properties that would open up every week. And so in the first week, let's say I made 6 offers, the next week 6, the next week 6, the next week 6. So I got 24 offers. And what you do, first off, is you don't make that many offers, because if 2 comes through, it scares you. If I get all 24, I have a party. Now, between property 1 and property 2, I do what's called MAO. And it stands for maximum allowable offer. And if one of you want me to describe that in my math and how I figure out how to make an offer on a property, put it in the chat box, and I'll answer that on the break. In fact, I need you to pound the chat box with questions, and we'll go through that here on the first break, and then I'll do it again at the end of the day. And it's important that you put your questions in the chat box right now and as we're going through this, so that I can get every one of your questions answered. Okay. Well, I would submit the offer between house 1 and house 2. And then they all got rejected. And so you think, well, Alan, this is a crummy story here. Why are you telling us? Well, it gets better. Hang on. So in the first month, I got 24 offers. In the second month, week 1, week 2, week 3, I'm doing the same thing, but also I do something else on week 3. I resubmit the offer on the 20th of the month. Why the 20th? Well, my boy was born on the 20th, and it's close to the end of the month, into the fiscal quarter, into the fiscal year. And so I resubmit the 24 offers I had in month 1 on the 3rd week in month 2. And what happens is I stay in there in the game where I'm snow plowing all these properties every single month. Imagine 24 the first month, 24 the second month, 24 the third month. And so what happens is either somebody else is going to buy them or I'm going to get them, because at some point the lending institution is going to cough them up. And so I realized in month 4, 5, 6, and 7 and beyond, they started to pop at the tune of 5 to 7 properties a month consistently. Just 3 hours a week, just making offers, 0 marketing cost. Who's paying Brad? Some of you think I am. No, I never paid Brad one dime, not one dime. The seller pays the realtor. And so he was getting money that way. In fact, I made him so much money, he became my private lender. How would you like to make your realtor so much money they become your private lender? And virtually 0 research time other than me riding in the car. And on making offers, I have a system. I have a bunch of system. And so I can get in and out of a property in 10 minutes and make an offer because I can figure my rehab costs that quick. And like I said, buys 5 to 7 properties a month. The key is using private lenders so that you can make offers with confidence out there. You know, this word confidence is a theme with my students. It is the number one thing that I hear consistently from my students in their testimonials or face-to-face, the fact that my system gives them the confidence to go get private money. Now, Brad became my private lender. Like I said, last time I talked to him, I taught him how to get private money, just like I am with you today. And he has had $8 million in private money. In 2 years, he purchased 1,000 single-family homes. 596 one year, 596 the next year. He did those in 26 different states. Here's a guy that just really took a hold of this. He's got a number of apartment complexes. I'm talking, 20, 40, apartments in those units. And they purchased 5 storage units, which is what Stacy teaches about. And then when I had lunch with him one day, he told me that there was someone from Chicago that wanted to buy those in bulk. And I haven't been back with Brad to find out. So next time I see him, I'm going to ask him if he sold them, because he was going to keep them long term. Look, you buy a property for cash, use somebody else's money. You have no monthly payments. Will banks let you buy without monthly payments? Heck no. Heck no. But private lenders will, right? Have no monthly payments. Get some of your profit when you buy. This is in here to trigger me to talk to you about this. What happens with you today is you go out and make an offer on a property, you get the property, and your money is your profit is in the back end of this. You either take your money out in payments or you sell the property and get your profit at that point in time. So, that equity in that property, you can't get it on day one. But with private money lenders, if you use my system, you can. Here's how it works. What I do when I buy a property, I call up a lender, and so that they can fund the deal that I'm getting. And there's 4 parts of a deal at closing. Number 1 is you got to pay for the property that you're buying. Number 2 is you got closing costs. Number 3 is you got rehab money, right? I have a 4th item. You might write this down. Money for Alan. All right. What I do is I don't break those amounts down for my private lender. I just give my private lender one money and I roll all these together. And so what happens when I go to closing is on my side of the settlement statement, any money that was sent in that is left over is on that side. And so I have in that what? I have my rehab money and I have money from my pocket. Now, I don't want you to suck every dime out of that equity that's at the back end. Remember, the bigger chunk of money is at the back end. I want you to leave a bigger chunk of money at the back end, but I want you to pull some of that money to the front end. Can you run into a problem with a rehab after you buy it? You know it, you know? And so what I do is I move money up. I move money up to the day of close to buy. That will change your life. Think about the gold nuggets that you're getting right now. That will change your life when you can move stuff up to the front end. And many times as a real estate investor, I hear this all the time before they get involved in my system, is that they're hurting, they're struggling, but they got this big deal coming and they just need to get it sold so they can get their equity. Wouldn't it be better to pull money right up front? And if you don't have anything that you need it on, it becomes early profit. Wouldn't you rather have that money right up front? Look, you might think you don't need private money if you got a credit line. When it's used up, you're out of business. Limit your borrowing ability and cash available for larger projects. It won't help you build personal relationship with private lenders. And it's subject to your bank's discretion and economic climate. In fact, my student here, Keith and Shannon, that's the way they were doing their business, with a line of credit. And what happened was they had a $284,000 line of credit. They're in the New England area. And they would buy a property, fix a property with that credit line, and then sell the property and pay back the lending institutions and take their profit. And so what happened was one day they sent the money in, they sold the property, and the bank shut them off. They didn't know it was coming. It shocked them. Fortunately, they had my home study system on the shelf. The key with that, though, is you got to open it up and use it. But in 3 weeks later, they had $750,000 in private money and changed their business totally. I got one of the nicest testimonials out there from them. So they were elated. And if they hadn't had the system, they would have been in trouble. So you can't rely on banks and hard money lenders and lines of credit. That's my point. Charles Ponzi. We've all heard the Ponzi about Ponzi schemes. Just a little background on this, because you never want to do this in our business, is he came over here in 2003, and he realized that back in Italy, they had what they call postal reply coupons. We call them stamps, I guess. So he realized that they were dirt cheap over there and he could sell them higher over here. And so that was his way of what he thought he'd make money. So what he did was he found people that would loan money, and he promised them a high rate of return. The problem of it is he never bought the coupons. Let me read down here to the bottom of this thing. They were mortgaging their homes, investing their life savings, and did not take their profits, but reinvest it. So by, I think he started this in 1920, and he made millions of dollars by July of that year in today's dollars. Now, here's what he was doing. Any scam that pays early lenders returns from investments of later lenders is considered a Ponzi scheme. So in 1933, when the SEC was birthed, they looked back at Charles and said, you can't do those type of loans anymore. They caught him and they put him in jail, and that was the end of him. So just so you know, you don't want to do that where you're, borrowing money from one person and, using it to live off of and stuff like that without taking care of business. Okay. So how can this happen with us? We take in money from a private lender and never secure it with a property. I never want you to do that. I always promise my lenders the money is secured by real estate, and I've lived by that forever. Or they keep the money in the gap. What's the gap? Well, it's part of the same thing I just said. When they sell the property, they will, 80% of your lender is going to ask you to keep giving them a high rate of return. Well, you don't want to do that because then the money is unsecured. So you want to make sure that you give the money back to them when you close, and then crank up your buying machine and get it started on the next property. Now, on this property here, a lady called me up and she said, "Are you one of the We Buy Houses guys?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I am." And she said, "Well, I bought this house 9 months ago, and I'm a little bit ashamed to tell you, I've never made the first payment on it. And the bank obviously wants it back." Now, I talked to the bank and they said that if I can find somebody that will buy this property and by the end of the month, they'll let me get out of it. Okay. Well, the end of the month, which would make most of you pucker, was 5 days away. But if you got private money, it's a phone call. So this is on a Monday, and I went over, took a look at the house, made sense to me. I picked up the phone, I called up a private lender, and by Friday, I closed on this house. And I walked away with $17,045 when I bought the property that Friday. Remember when I said I'd pull some money into the front end? That's the highest I ever borrowed for myself. I walked out with $17,045 on a house I didn't even know I was going to buy Monday morning. But by the end of the week, I had that in my bank account. And I ended up making $31,945 on the property altogether. Can you see that you're able to buy a property at a discount because you have all cash? You know, that's one of the beauties of this. Cash is king. And so you can get discounts. I'm going to show you one of my students, Robert Anderson, here in a little bit. I'll show you what he did. I talked about this four items on a property. You know, you need money. You need money to fund the deal. You need to pay for the property that you're buying. Number 2 is the money. Number 3 is your rehab, enhance the value. And number 4 is you keep it long-term or monthly payments. And so that's what I do with closing. I bring in money to cover not only the rehab, but a little bit from my pocket. Now, how do we find properties? Well, we look for motivated sellers. And so we spend our time and effort and money on signs. I like these bandit signs, yellow signs, black letters. Social media is perfect. Flyers, business cards, websites. And when the seller calls, you want to be able to perform. But what would it cost you if you can't close the deal because you can't get funding? What would it cost you? I want you to think about this. Let me back this up. You go through some level of what I've got there on the screen, where you're marketing, where you've learned the techniques. Like I said, yellow signs, you know, these are the bandit signs that I like. Social media, that's hot and good. And so there's just a lot of stuff that we do to be able to market. And what happens is you spend your time, effort, and money. Listen to me. You spend your time, effort, and money on all those things. But when the rubber meets the road, which is what I'm talking about on this slide, if you can't fund the deal, you just wasted all that. But you know what the biggest problem is? Your reputation. You just hurt your reputation because you can't get funding. Think about getting all the way to the closing table with a realtor and you can't fund it. You just took food off their table. You need to be able to fund the deals after you put in all of these things right here that I talked about. But if you're going to a bank, hard money lender, or line of credit, you are in jeopardy every day on getting a deal done. Now, how do I use private money? Well, I got a couple of pictures here that I'll show you. These cabinets are good. But what I want to do is brighten this kitchen up. It looks dated to me. And so I changed the hardware on this and I painted things white. I got some staging material on the counter. That little towel that I got up there every now and then walks away. So that's one of the things. What do you do with a one that looks like this? I'm getting ready to do one of that this coming week, just like that. You throw it away and you put in a new deal. Gooseneck faucet, mini blinds to hide the ugly neighbors. Sometimes I'll do chandeliers, and put that door up there with leaded glass. Can you see the mirror? Look around there, see if you can see the mirror. There's only one oven. I'm standing right at the door going into the living room. Now, this is walking in this property. Dollar table, dollar vase, dollar plastic flower, dollar. That's the way I stage. Different house, same table, same vase. Think I'm cheap, right? I just move them around. So here's how I find people to loan me money. You got two options, people you know and people you don't know. And what's going to happen to you today is you are going to learn after the break the compliance rules that we got to follow. And that's why I have to teach these as two different groups. Okay. I like people you know starting out, and then at some point you can move into people that you don't know if you so desire. So on people that you know, we're targeting family, friends, and associates. Family, friends, and associates. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, Alan, I burnt their garage down when I was a kid. Why would they loan me money? Look, you grew up and they need you worse than you need them, for sure. You know, where are they going to go? These people are getting a double O nothing on a bank CD, and they don't know about you. They think they're going to, you know, have to stick with that, and they don't know how to get a high rate of return. They're stuck. That's where my mom was at. But then you come along and you can offer them 4 or 5 times more than what they're getting on a bank CD, and they jump for joy. They jump for joy. You are no longer begging for money. I want to talk to you here a little bit about your posturing. You're not begging for money. Ask them where else they can get 8% secured by a mortgage. All they have to do is write a check and set back and wait for a bigger check. It's the American dream for them because you take care of everything. So they loan you money, just like think about a CD. You go into somebody goes into a bank, puts money down on a CD, signs some papers, and then when it matures, they get their money back. It's the same thing here with my people, with my property. So they loan me money, I'll take care of everything, and then I will cut them a check. You like the idea of having folks ready to write you a check to buy a property just by you picking up the phone? It's like I said, it's like ordering pizza. Think about ordering money the way you order pizza. That's basically how easy it is once you get into this. You like the idea of an army of people begging you to take their money? Think about that. How would you like to have so much money you can't spend it all? I've been there. It's awesome. Dealing with a fear monster. Why would they loan me money? What do I say to them? How do I manage the transaction? Do everyday folks have that much money? Oh, you'll be amazed at how much money's out there. And then what you say to them, I came up with a way to take a potential private lender all the way from meeting them, all the way down to the closing table. And I'm going to show you that flow on what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say. And it is something that I've known for, seems like forever. But I didn't document it. And recently I decided to document it, and it has been a grand slam home run for my students. I call it my path to wealth. So we'll get into that here shortly. So where do they find money? CDs, 401ks that somebody's quit, retired, gotten laid off, and then they roll over into an IRA, whether it be Roth or traditional. Now, don't you get in the business of changing that. If they have a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, then it stays that way, and same thing on traditional. But if they want to change it, they should go to a tax consultant on that. Whole life policies, you might not think about that, but if people want to borrow money from their whole life policy or universal policy, then they can, there's still going to be interest to pay, but it's minimal. And we can make money on the spread, So, and then lines of credit. People can pull out money, a line of credit on their house, whatever, and loan us that money to do a deal. Now, one of the things I've noticed over the years is that people don't understand the steps on IRA. So I'm giving you the top level steps here on an IRA. I've talked a lot about IRAs already and having a 401k and roll it into a self-directed IRA. So let's talk about that for just a second on this slide. First thing they have to do is open up an account. Now, I need to tell you that if you've got 10 lenders, then you want them to sign up for an IRA, self-directed IRA. Not all of them are going to make across the finish line unless you hold their hand. And so I learned early on to hold their hand. How do I do that? Well, the first thing I do is I tell them that this is the IRA company that I work well with, but they're welcome to go to any IRA company that's friendly to real estate investors. But 100% of my lenders go to Equity Trust, 100%, because they trust me. And so the first thing that has to happen is you got to open up an account. So you need to know how to instruct them to open up that account. What block needs to be filled out, what needs to be checked, and all that kind of stuff. Now, they need to take care of signing it and the account number and where the money is to get rolled over and stuff like that. So the first thing is to open up the account. And one of the things I need to tell you on this is that most of the time, all the time when they move money into an account, there's going to be an account open fee, typically, I should say. Maybe not always in all of them. I don't know all of them. I know that mine always charges something. So in rolling that money into that account, there's a fee. And most lenders understand that's just part of doing business. Now, if I hear somebody squeak, what's a squeak? Oh, there's a fee. Well, when that happens, I pay the fee. I just feel I don't want to upset my lender. And so that's what I do. Now, on the rollover, that's not used as much. That is where like they move over a 401k and now they got an account, let's say in Schwab, and they need to roll it into the same account. They use that form right there. Direction of investment is the one we care about. That is directing the money down to the closing table. Now I got to caution you on this. There's two things you need to know on this number 3. You want to write these down. One is how the name is made out on the mortgage, the promissory note, the check. It is, in my case, Equity Trust Company Custodian, FBO, Allen Cowgill IRA. Now, FBO, when I was a purchasing agent, that was for freight on board. In this case, it's for the benefit of, okay? So you got to get that right. If you leave one of those things out, the money won't move. And so that is the way Equity Trust does it. Other IRA companies might have it different. You just need to know what theirs is. And that's why I'm teaching you this. You need to know what it is so you can fill it out properly for them. Very important. We can close with attorneys here in town, and we had an attorney where his clerk couldn't get it right, and it slowed up our closings, and we finally had to go someplace else. So, yeah, so that's the major thing there of getting the money moved. Okay. Yeah, on that, trying to think about another item I was going to tell you, but it'll come back to me. But on the contribution, that is where they get paid back. Oh, I know what it is. Let me go back to 3. Is that when, let's say you want $500,000 to come down to closing. What's going to happen is the lender will get a phone call. And so they need to pick up the phone and give them a verbal confirmation that is $500,000 or the money will not move. Okay. So that's the two things. Contribution, that's putting the money back into their account. I do that on it's the size of a business check. So if you take an 8.5 by 11, you get 3 of these on there. And it's a form that the company will download. And then we write in there a little bit, but most of the form's already made out. And so that's used for like getting rent back into the account, or if we sell a property, getting the whole amount back in there. So that's the 4 items that you need to know on an IRA. Now, lead generation, finding private lenders, talking to people, you need to have scripts. And I'm going to show you my scripts here shortly. I'm going to give them to you in 2 levels. I'm going to give you a couple scripts that are a few sentences long. I'm also going to give you some one-liners that are just killers, just awesome. And follow-up. That's very important because private lenders loan you money based on the fact that they trust you. And so in follow-up, 60% of your money comes from follow-up. And I'm going to give you the steps to take in following up. And so if you miss that, you're going to leave 60% of your private money on the table. Now, I talked about this here a little bit ago on the path to wealth. I'm going to walk you through this chart now. And this chart it fits on one piece of paper, but I'm going to break it down and walk you through this a piece at a time. Okay. So your biggest issue is what to say to lenders, I would think. when to say it, what action should you take, and when to switch gears into when you're closing it. So I went and I did a chart on this to help everybody. And so this is just the top of it. I'm going to walk you through the whole piece of this. At the start there, it says magic words. What's that mean? It means I don't want to waste my time with somebody that's broke. And so I want to start out finding out if they got money or if they're broke. And so I call this the magic words. And here's what I say. Do you have IRA money, or a bank CD that's not currently earning a secured high rate of return? Do you have IRA or a bank CD that's not currently earning a high rate of return? So I jot that down. I'm looking for folks that are either broke or got money. If they're broke, I'm done. You see the line going down there? It says no, I'm done with them. Now, underneath that, it has referral. I'm going to be candid. I have some students doing that, and that's fine. I've never done that. I don't worry about a referral. I just ask folks and move on. Now, if somebody says coming out of the magic words, you have IRA investment capital currently earning a secured high rate of return, and they say, well, yeah, I got some money. What are you talking about? Well, then I go into my 30-second commercial. What's this? It is a terse statement that lets them know what my business is and why I'm looking for money. And in this case, I say I'm a real estate investor in Springfield, Ohio. And at times I borrow money from folks just like you. I pay a high rate of return. Can I tell you more? Now, the way I verbalize that is how I say it on the slide here. It's a little bit different, but it's okay, because maybe you want to add in there that second line. I'm a real estate investor in Springfield, Ohio, and I buy, fix, and sell single family homes. And at times I borrow funds from folks just like you. I pay a high rate of return. Can I tell you more? Now, let me give you a couple pointers here. When you're saying this, I want it to be one that you can memorize. I call it a terse statement. I don't want you to stumble and bumble. Now, the line that is where they're going to perk up is when you say, I borrow funds from folks just like you. That's when they pay attention. And then I come back and say, I pay a high rate of return, and that really gets their attention. Okay. If you leave those two out, then you should just forget it. Just go home, because this is so important. I'm a real estate investor in Springfield, Ohio. I buy, fix, and sell single family homes. And at times I borrow funds from folks just like you to purchase and fix those homes. I pay a high rate of return. Can I tell you more? Now, on can I tell you more, I would be happier if that was an open-ended question. And I encourage my students, I'm encouraging you right now to have an open-ended question. You can see I've got a closed question here where they could just say yes or no. But I learned it that way, and I've never changed. But I think with an open-ended question, because why? Because you want to figure out what's making them tick. You want to figure out what's in their head. And so if you can get an open-ended question that's not a yes or no question, then you got a better opportunity to figure out where they're coming from and where their pinch points are, and then you can answer those. Now, you see that black line that drops down there underneath can I at the bottom? There it is. It's coming down from the top here. What's going to happen on this, because they said they did have money to loan. We don't know how much. I go into this. Either they're going to say, I'm not interested, no. And if that's the case, you're done. Or let me take you all the way to the left-hand side. Let me think about it. Let me think about it. Well, if they say, let me think about it, they're still curious. They're still trying to figure out what I'm talking about. Now, the one in the middle, I'm going to come back to that in just a second, okay? Because I want to spend some time with you on that. So now I'm back up on let me think about it, okay? So I've got an audio that I send people, and the audio, what it does, the voice on it is a radio talk show host voice, so it's very compelling voice. And what it does is it explains to them what private lending is, and then at the end of the audio, why they should loan me money. And it's about a 20-minute audio, so it's not that overbearing. Now I call it my audio business card because it's actually my business card on audio. Okay. And then also I've got what I call a special report. It is 12 questions and answers that would be things that I might get questions from my private lenders. And what this special report does is they go in and they look up the question, and then they go to the paragraph or page that I have in there. And in doing that, they get their question answered, and then that moves them closer to loaning you money. So some people like to read and some people like to listen. And so I provide both an audio and a special report. And that's what I like to, when somebody says, I want to think about it, I will email them both. Okay. Or you could hand them the special report if you had it all printed out. Now, here is something that I really need to stress is within 7 to 10 days, you need to call them up. This is your Achilles heel, by the way. So many of you will do the top part, but then you feel like that phone's too heavy and you don't pick up the phone and call them within 7 to 10 days. 60% of the money comes from follow-up. So you have to follow up. Now, I make this very easy for you, and you want to write this down. When I call somebody up, I just ask them a simple question. Do you have any questions? And in doing that, that generates the conversation. If they got questions, they'll let me know, and then I can answer those questions. If they've not listened to the audio or not looked at the special report, I don't care. I still want to talk to them. And what I focus on, this is very important, I focus on the high rate of return. I don't go telling them all about my real estate business because they might glaze over and I might turn them off. Okay. I want you to focus on what they care about, which is a high rate of return. That's why you're having this conversation. Now, at some point in the conversation, the next script I got, I just gave you 4. The next script I got is this. Are you ready to get involved? Are you ready to get involved? That's how I ask for money. That's how I ask for money. Now I'm going to give you a technique here where you could double your money in just a couple minutes. So hang in there. So at this point, are you ready to get involved? Okay. If they say no, then you're done. I don't want you to chase people. This is a numbers game, which means you go from one person to the next person to the next person. You don't go single out one person and then chase them to ask for, asking them for money. Just don't do that. They might come back to you someday. I had one guy come back a year and a half later after I talked to him. It's probably eating on him, and probably had a CD and it matured, and he came back and loaned me money. But don't chase the money. Go find somebody else. Now, if they say yes, what you see over here on the right, then we shift into the mechanics, and I'll show you that in just a second. Now, I want to take you back to the middle first, though. Remember this middle thing we talked about? So you're talking to somebody, you give them the magic words, you give them the 30-second commercial, and now they want more. They want more. You need to be prepared to give more coming out of this. Here is your stumbling block, though. Let me tell you what not to do. What not to do is on that terse statement, okay, of the 30-second commercial, I don't want you to try to roll all this stuff into that. I want you to let this thing flow. I want the magic words, and figure out whether they're broke or not broke. And then if they're interested, okay, you give them the terse statement, okay, the 30-second commercial. And then if they want to think about it, then you take them down that leg I just gave you. But now they want more information. So what would you do? You maybe give them details on why you got into real estate, the types of deals that you do, but not necessarily one deal, that you have a passion for real estate. And once again, don't focus on the deal, focus on high rate of return. So you might want to tell them about the structure on how the money flows and stuff like that. And so then at some point, I'm going to do what? I'm going to ask them for money. And I do that by saying what? Are you ready to get involved? If they say, let me think about it, I'm going to zip back to that other leg again, right? With the audio and the special report. If they say no, you're done. You're not going to talk to them ever again about money, ever. Or unless they bring it up, or they say yes, and you shift in the mechanics. Now we're going to double your money. Okay. So this is what the whole chart looks like. Okay. But mechanics, what I do, let's say somebody comes to me and they say, I want a loan. Yeah, I'd like you to start with $200,000. I say this. Now you need to do that in that instant. And you want to write this down, what I'm going to give you right now, because it's going to double your money. If somebody says, yeah, I'd like to start with 200,000, I say, well, that's great. But if I find a deal worth 400,000, should I call you? Very kind and courteous, great way to ask for money. If I find a deal worth X, I always double it. If they say, I want to loan you $1 million, I say, well, if I find a deal worth 2 million, should I call you? Should I call you? All right. So kind and courteous. And many times they will say yes. Why will they say yes? 2 reasons. One is they trust you. The other one is they always test you. They always test me. Which means that they start out at a small amount because they still haven't got it figured out what your program is, whether it's going to work, and if they're going to get their money back. And so they always have money back there. So if you ask them a question like that, if I find a deal worth X, should I call you? Another miniature script. You have a high likelihood of doubling your money. I had a student that was talking to a potential lender. Lender said, I'll loan you 100,000. My student said, if I find a deal worth 200,000, should I call you? The private lender said yes. My student asked again. I had never thought about that. And within 30, 40 seconds, she had the potential lender up to $900,000, all from 100,000. You might try that. I never have. I just did it once when, say it once to the folks and go from there. But you could sure give it a try. Now, whether they up the ante or not up the ante. So let's stay with this 200,000. Let's say they no, I'm good. I'm going to start with 200,000. Then I instantly, after you up the ante, I instantly want you to do this. I want you to say, congratulations, you made a wise decision. Now, doesn't it make you feel good? You see, they might be skittish and not sure about this. And by saying that, if nothing else, I would think it calms them down a little bit. And then it's very important you say this. Here's how it works. This is very important because they don't have a clue. They might be writing a check right now. But you don't want to touch that check because the money is unsecured. Could run into a Ponzi scheme problem, all kinds of stuff. I want the money to go to closing with a real estate deal and secure it with a real estate. So you say, here's how it works. You don't make the check out to me. I'm going to find a property that's good for us. I'm going to call you up in the next 3 to 6 weeks and we'll get started. And I need to have you be ready to send the money in to the title company. Does that work for you? And they always say yes. And they always say yes. That's how you do it. Within 7 to 10 days, you need to follow up to see if you can answer any questions. Screen people out that want points, right? I think you got it by now. Screen people out that can't make a decision. Well, that might concern some of you. So let's talk about that. What I have found is this. If people have money on a bank CD, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. If they said they're going to loan you money, you're going to get it. If they have somebody that have money on a 401k and they're going to roll it over into a self-directed IRA, you're going to get it 85% of the time. 85% of the time. So on this, you got to be pretty confident that you're going to get the money when they say yes. Okay. You just need to watch the 401k rolling over into a self-directed IRA because you're going to get most of those. So the odds are in your favor. 85% of the time in your favor, but you need to watch that. And if it doesn't move, you need to be looking for another lender. Okay. So when I get their interest form back, this is the same thing on up in the ante. And what's the interest form? Well, when I had my 2 luncheons and I ended up with $1 million, I had this form and it's only a one-sided form. And it has information like what their name is and if they have any questions. And then there's boxes on there for them to check a box on how much money they want to loan me. And so when I talked to you a few seconds a few seconds ago on the path to wealth. This here, if you're face to face, or if you're doing a Zoom meeting, you can email this to them afterwards. And then when they give you a number, you do the up the ante thing again. Now, here's steps on signing up a lender. If you're seeing them face to face, you could shake their hand. And if they give you a number, you like, let's say $200,000, you don't give them an interest form. The purpose of the interest form is to get the number. Once you get the number, then you're there. So they either do it verbally, or if you give them an interest form, then they return it, then you've got something. Okay. And then I always get an after over on the right, an after repaired value appraisal, and check the title. And then I send information to the insurance company. So we get shirts on the property and on the closing agent. So we get this thing closed. And so when the money doesn't come to me, it goes into the closing. Okay. Here is a sample private lender program for you. I should tell you, by the way that I, the three types of interest programs that I offer my folks, my private lenders. One is amortize. One is amortize. Going rate right now that I believe in the nation is 4 to 5% amortize. So that it pays down over time, just like your personal residence. Okay, that's one. Number two is how I paid my mom. Simple interest only, and monthly interest payments. So I would keep up with the interest every month, but when I got ready to sell the property, I would still owe mom let's say 200,000 as an example, of her principal. She would get all that back. And then the third way, which is up here at the top, on that number, that one with mom would be anywhere 5-6%. And then the one at the top there, where it says 8%, from between 7 and 8%, if you let the money accrue and you get paid when they get paid, which is when they sell the property. Okay, now that can be a double-edged sword, just so you know. If you have somebody out there that the money's accruing on, if you let it sit out there too long, you're going to go upside down. Okay, so you need to know how you're going to get out when you get in, which means on how you're going to get out. You're either going to sell it, okay, or you could refinance it. But you don't want this to languish, into the second year, because it's really getting close to eating up your equity. Okay. But it is such a beautiful thing not have to making payments. Now, you typically are not going to use all three of these. I do it because I have different types of deals. But if you're a wholesaler, or if you're a buy, fix, sell, then you'd let the money accrue. If you're doing 40 unit apartment complexes, or if you're going to buy a house and keep it for years, then you want to do what? You want to amortize the loan. Okay. Or if you want to make a quick hit, like I do on this simple interest, like I did with my mom, going in and offering something, and then you just keep up with the interest payments. So that's the way I do it. But in doing this, I would expect you're going to just pick one of those. Okay. I like paying on the 15th of the month. Why? Well, for those of you who got rentals, tenants pay late sometimes. And so I didn't want to pay my mortgage to my private lender on the first of the month. So I moved it out to 15th. Now, the nice thing about it, you could pick any day in the month that you want. I could have pushed this out to the 21st, the 28th, whatever I wanted to do, and give that tenant time to get the rent in, so I didn't have to dig into my pocket and fund that problem. Okay. Now, next item is your homework. What is your minimum investment? I'll tell you mine. You'll fall out of your chair, but you got to realize I live in a low end area in Springfield, Ohio. And so I found that for subject to deals that I could offer $5,000. I could borrow $5,000 from a private lender and use that for TLC and payments until I get the place covered up. Okay. And so I can do that on some deals. So you need to come up with a minimum that fit. Now, can you change it? Yeah, you can change it the next day. And if you don't like that one, you can change it the day after that. So you aren't stuck with it. Okay. And it's up to you. Now, There is no early withdrawal penalty. Never offer that to a private lender because it's negative. It's the one thing they hate. When they go to a bank and get a bank CDs, the number one thing they hate is that early withdrawal penalty. They're stuck. The bank does that because they don't want people to pull their money out and run over to another bank that's paying a 0.25% more. And so that locks them in, that the early withdrawal penalty. We don't need to do that because it is rare when a private lender wants their money back. It's rare. If you got 40 lenders in 2 years, you might have one. Now, the only reason they pull their money out is because things change in their life. Kids are going to college, they got a divorce, something like that. And then they'll ask for their money back. But it's okay. You can just pick up the phone and call in another lender. One of the things I did early on that you might want to implement, and I've never changed this, even though I could have, is when I got my first lender, my second lender, I got thinking about, well, if they want their money back, I'd have to go to a bank at that juncture. Remember, I didn't have a plethora of private lenders at that point. And so in doing that, I put down 45 days to get my money. Why? Because that was the window if I had to go to a bank, I thought. But I've never had to trigger that. I've never had to use that 45 days. In fact, I have given money back within the same week. Within the same week. It's just really simple. You just pick up the phone, call up another lender. They're excited to get the money going, and they're happy. And so, couple things. You can put 45 days in, and especially if you're new on this. But then, if you use my system on private money, then you'll be good. Your posture is some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. SW, 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 SW. If we were all together, I'd have us go through this all at once together. Some will loan you money. Some won't loan you money. In fact, most of them won't give you money. But so what? Someone out there is waiting. I don't want you to beg. I don't want you to plead. I want you to ask twice. I want you to get out and tell people you pay a high rate of return. Let the chips fall where they may. I want you to set up your program now. And I just went through a sample a minute ago. You need 3 scripts. Talking to people you know. If they don't answer, you got a voicemail. And then talking to they know people that they know if you want to do referrals. So you talk to Aunt Mary, and now Aunt Gert, she says, I'm broke, but go talk to your Aunt Gertrude. Now, you haven't talked to Aunt Gertrude in 20 years, but maybe Aunt Gertrude would be nice to, excited enough to get a high rate of return. Just imagine that you're meeting your first lender tomorrow. How would you communicate your private lending program to them? Well, here's the tools I use. I use a PowerPoint presentation like we're doing right now. Okay. And what really was the catalyst for that is when I had those 2 luncheons and I used the PowerPoint, I put together 37 PowerPoint slides, and they are gold. I think about that. I worked on these for hours and hours and hours and hours. I didn't have anything else to do. I mean, I was negative $10,000 in debt per month, and I had to make this thing work. And so I honed the PowerPoint slides so they flowed and words came in when they were supposed to. And out of those 2 slides, I got $1 million. I got students doing better than that. Key scripts, I showed you some. The special report. Now, credibility kit. What I did was I created a credibility kit. And the reason I did that is I went into a home, and a husband and wife were motivated sellers because the wife had a boyfriend. And so the wife says, prove it. Prove that what you've told us today, you can really do. And so I went back home, pulled some information together, went back to the couple, and my competitor got the deal. And so ever since that day, I had a credibility kit, and it is incredible. It's incredible. I'll tell you a little bit about it here in a little bit. And then a compelling audio. Can you see that having a proven presentation would make your finding private lenders so much easier out there? On this audio, it's got duplication rights. It sells private lending for you and why they ought to loan you money. How many would like to do a deal and never talk to a bank? Let's say you got a potential real estate deal, and your thoughts are you're paralyzed because you don't know how to fund the deal. It looks like a great deal, but the seller wants cash. So to get the cash, you find a potential lender, but they ask you a question. Maybe it's one of these. How long you been in business? Why should I loan you money? How many lenders do you have? That last item sentence there is what I got in my very first luncheon. I was stumped, but I figured it out in my second luncheon, and where somebody asked the question. I said, well, right now I got two, and I hope you're the next one. So what do you say to your potential lender? Well, you could say I'm new, or you could say this is a new bolt-on program. But I'm not different than any other new business starting up. There's three basic steps. Number one, let's take a doctor for an example. They got to get an education. Step two is they get their funding lined up so they can get their desk and their computer and their doctor equipment, their business. And my business is the same way. Now, if I go to a bank, it's going to take 4, 5, 6 weeks, and all the good deals are gone. I got a win-win program that I'm creating to where I need instant influx of cash to take these deals down. And the person that loans me money makes many more times than what they're getting on a bank CD. And so I'm looking for instant access to cash. And I'm looking for folks that want to get in on the ground floor. This is a typical business startup. You get an education, which you're doing right now. You get your funding lined up. And then you do what? You go out, do deals. Or in a doctor's case, he opens up for business. You got this nut stuff. Sorry, but we do. Here's what happens. Your funding is different, and that makes your life harder. And I'm going to make it easier today. See, when you attended your first REI group, or you started out as a real estate investor, you started getting an education. The next thing you did, and you were told to do this, is go out and make offers. Making offers is opening up for business. And then you hunt for funding. Funding ought to be in step two, like the doctor, like a plumber, like any other business. This is where we nuts this up. We get an education and then we go make offers. And then you hope somebody will fund you, but you got it out of order. If you're doing a bank and a hard money lender, a line of credit, this is the way you do business. But think about having a private lender. Where would this thing fit with private lenders, right? It's the one funding source that will put all three steps in the right order. You seasoned investors, you get set in your ways, and you've been doing this maybe for years. There's a better way if you would embrace private money. You got the steps out of order because you can't crank a bank, hard money lender, line of credit. But with a private lender, it naturally fits in step two. This is the doctor story again. This should be your story. Get an education. I applaud you for that, because the foundation of this business is training. Get funding, and the only way to fit funding in two is with private money. Think about it. And then open for business, which in our case is what? Making offers. And it puts you in the driver's seat. The doctor flow is typical, but you are not following the typical way, so your life and business is tougher. It's for everyone. All of you can use this doctor story as a brand new bolt-on program. Look, whether you're a beginner or seasoned investor, do you think acquiring private lenders could help you in your business? I would think so. Hey, this is a sample report of how I keep track of all my money with private lenders. Where's the money at? If you got one property and one lender, you don't need this report. If you got a bunch, you need this report. It's an Excel spreadsheet. Let's take Aretha Franklin over there. 110, that is 110,000 twice. So it's 220. It's on two different properties. I just put the number down and one letter or two letters in some cases of the property. And so I know which one it is. And then if somebody calls up, let's say down there, Spud Webb, let's say he's got 5 of them. Let's say somebody calls up and says, or Spud Webb says, hey, I gotta have my money. I had something come up and I need all my money back. Okay. So what I do is I call up another lender and they fund the deal, or I might call up 2 lenders. He's got 5 of them. Maybe I call up 2 and put him up here. I can do that within a week, 2 at the worst, and fill this in, and he gets paid. And so everybody's happy. But this chart here has really helped me. And let me tell you about Blanche. Blanche, she came to that second luncheon I talked about, and she's in her 70s, widowed, and she asked me a bunch of questions, and I thought she was just here to make my life rough. Okay, she just asked me question after question after question. I saw her walk out the door, and I thought, this lady doesn't have two nickels to rub together. And I'll be darned if she didn't come back and loan me $25,000. Then 35,000, 15,000, 45,000, 110,000, up to $230,000. This is where I learned about up in the ante. I didn't do it with Blanche, but this is where I learned that they have so much money behind there. How many of you would like to find a Blanche in your life? I would think every one of you. Her sister loans me money. Her son loans me money. The only problem of it is she just bought a real estate course. In fact, she bought a property using that real estate course right across from one of my properties. I could stand on my porch and wave at her on her porch. Now, listen, one private lender like Blanche brought me two private lenders. Those two could bring you four. And we're going to up the ante on every one, yes or yes. Can you see how you can get so much money you can't spend it all? That's exactly what happened to me. Exactly. Now, I took a poll on a Zoom call a while back, and I asked these two questions. And what happened was people would say, what's stopping me from private money? As a group of new investors, and they said education, more education. And then the other answer was fear. I asked them about that. And what I realized in this answer is that what's solving the fear problem is more education. They're all one thing. They're all one thing, just need education. And that's why we're doing this today. And this is why Stacy had me come in. But consider this, fear comes from the lack of training. This private lender concept is revolutioning our business. Imagine having $1 million just a phone call away. What would that do for you and your family? Let me tell you about Robert Anderson. He's retired. He is $53,000 in debt. He's hurting. He can't keep up with his Social Security check, okay? His wife's name's Rosa, and he wanted to buy this apartment complex, but he couldn't even pay the closing cost on this, okay? So what happened was he saw this apartment complex, and they were asking 2.3 million. And using my system, he got his first private lender, and he took $500,000 off on this. He offered 1.8 because it's an all cash deal, and he figured that he'd get a nice discount because it's all cash, and he did. They took it. He took $500,000 off on that, and they took it. They were motivated sellers. He sold it 7 months later, and the lender walked away with $270,000, which is fine because the lender was a catalyst to make this whole thing happen. And there's Robert. There's a picture of Robert. He said, I couldn't have done this deal without Alan's system. He walked away with $1.2 million on his first deal, beginners. 1.2. Can you imagine that happening to you? How would you feel about that? He did the deal in Florida, and now he lives on a 27-acre estate in North Carolina. Last time I talked to him, he was doing 5 more deals out there. And he's living on the side of a mountain, just doing great. Was that typical? No, not typical. But it is typical that you get 0 if you don't take action. So what I do with my students is encourage that they take action right off the bat. My experience with private money over the years is I like getting money, getting profit when you close to buy. I love that. I learned that. It's so simple. You don't suck every dime out of the bigger chunk of money, but you take some money out and put it in your pocket the day you close. You can buy fast and at lightning speed and beat your competition. That is critical. That makes you a very good competitor in town. You can do rehab fast because you have 100% of cash. You got enough money to cover all the rehab. You get a discount when you pay all cash, like Robert did. You get better deals because cash is king, and all cash deals have the cheapest closing cost. It goes on. Number 7, you can cover unexpected bills just by borrowing private money and putting a second mortgage on a property if needed. Think about that for a minute. Confidence. You can close the deal. The number one feedback is that, and that's what I get from my students, that gives them the confidence. Your life gets better because if your funding is right side up. Get term insurance, and when you die, your family gets rich. Whoa. Well, I hope you don't die, but if you do, that's a blessing for your family because by getting term insurance, you can pay off all the lenders, and they got free and clear property, and you can get unlimited funds. 12, the magic of getting a flood of money. Private lender will bring you more private lenders without you asking. One private will bring you two will bring you 4. Then you up the ante on every one of them. When you tap into 401ks, then roll over into IRAs, self-directed IRAs, the money can be huge. Just think about how the money piles up. If you want those 12 items in your life, here's how. I showed you a reason. You showed up today for a reason. I have shown you the success path. Now I want to quickly give you a bird's eye view of just the content portion of what you're going to be learning. What you're going to get is everything I showed you plus part of a system. And all my students you met on this training have implemented their businesses like Robert. Now, if I'm doing a coaching program, one-on-one, those can be as high as $12,000. You aren't going to have to pay anything like that because I want to go out to a lot of people to get the system. And there's the system right there. Let me explain the system here a little bit. If you see this big box on the left bottom, which says premium system underneath my red tie there, that is the heart of the system, the premium system. That is where we convert people into private money lenders. Okay, we attract them through that, with the tools that I got, and convert them into private money lenders. Now, the box behind that, the big one, says wealth. The whole thing is wealth management system. That was a vacuum before me. That is where we manage lenders, but there wasn't anything out there like that. Now, managing lenders is not tough. It's very easy, but there wasn't anybody that had that. So I filled the vacuum for our industry by creating that. Now, let's go to the right there, that customizable marketing tool, the small screen at the bottom. When you get your hands on the system, the millionaire system is what I call it, is you will get a template in this website. You fill out the template, your name and how much interest you want to pay, and hit the enter button. And in less than 10 minutes, you will have 20 some forms filled out, and you are ready to go find private lenders in 10 minutes. So you don't have to go through every slide, every page, and all this kind of stuff. You can get all 20 forms filled out in 10 minutes. Now, let's go to the next slide there, where it says private lender website. I've got a website where we have 1 million warm private lenders. These are folks that have put money on a deal, and we scrape the whole United States every month, and you get that. And on the far right, where it says 24, there are 24 audios that come with the system. And I want you to go through the first 8, and then you can start asking me questions. Now, I'm going to go through the rest of this system in a piece at a time here so you can understand the makeup. Why I created this system? Well, initially for me to find the private money lenders, and now for you, I created and implemented the process. And so you can use that and organize the closing and create documents. Who this is for: brand new real estate investors, seasoned real estate investors, landlords, commercial folks, and flippers. It's $2,997, but you aren't going to have to pay that because we're on this group meeting. Testimonial from Joel. He said, after investing in real estate for about a year, I knew I needed to understand private lending to increase the volume of my investing. From Alan's program, I received the tools I need to understand private lending, who I might approach, and how to develop a program I could offer to potential lenders. The first call I made, the person had $125,000 making 1.5% interest. I felt amazed. I could tell them I could offer them a much higher rate of return. I just needed the education and the tools. Thank you, Alan. There's his beautiful family over there. Bonus number 1. This is that website I talked about. It would cost you thousands to do this by yourself. We have it all done, and we have it updated every month. And these are people out there that are private lenders. Actually, we've also got a letter that you can mail to them. And what I'd recommend is you start with lenders right in your backyard. Okay. Bonus, the next one. This is that customizable forms. Cost me thousands to get that set up. Value is $497. It is an incredible marketing tool, and it's not only offers that template in there where you get your 20 forms within 10 minutes. There are other forms in there too to help you out tremendously. This is John Fisher out of Colorado. He says, you've done a marvelous job in doing mass media coordination. That's where a lot of people in the real estate mass distribution areas fall apart. Now, what he just said there is very important. That is very insightful on that. They are not able to piece things together, but the customizable forms tool does this for you. You just fill in the blank to populate, and all of a sudden there are 20 forms that are all right there. And actually, there's a couple more than that. Now, what I did was I hired somebody to scrape the whole United States and find 10 SEC attorneys in every single state. Now, many of you will not use an SEC attorney. I'm going to show you some really cool stuff on how to get private lenders, and you don't need an attorney, but some people do. Take Stacy for an example. She wanted to ratchet things up, so she got a private placement memorandum, which I'm going to talk about and give you some more training on right after the break. Now, I did 10 per state, and so what that does is rather than having somebody start from scratch to find an attorney, I've already got 10 there for you that can help you take a jump start on this. The special report, that's at 12 questions and answers that I explained to you, $497. You get that as a bonus. You can send it on an email. You can print it out, hand it to them. I brought 3 programs to this industry that were not there before. This is where I created a checklist where you could answer 3 questions and find out which SEC program or programs that you can use based on your answers to those questions. There are attorneys that don't have this information. And this thing, it took me 2.5 years to have birth on this. You get it. And then credibility kit, I told you about the couple that I lost a deal on because I didn't have the facts on what I could do. Now, on the credibility kit, I agreed to tell you a little bit more about it. You want to jot this down real quick. On this credibility kit, there's a page on you. It can either be a half page or a whole page. There's a page on your company. So you got 2 pages. The next thing, which is incredible, is you have a hard time, almost impossible time, explaining your education to the outside world. So what I did was I went to an office store. I picked up blank certificate pages, you know, the ones that's got them frames around it. And then I just made my own, put those in my credibility kit. When folks go through this, it floors them on the education that we have. And so it is so great. And then staging material, you know, you saw a little bit of that on one of my houses, 2 of my houses. So I put the information on that. I put the special report in the back of this for weight. Then I take it back to take all this back to the store, and I let them spiral bind it. Okay. It is awesome. Here's 3 bonuses. A transcript. On my first 2 luncheons, my sister was there. She is an expert, very talented on creating books and documents. And she created a document to cover that, but you can use that for one-on-one meetings, group meetings, Zoom meetings. It's awesome. Live video. I've got a video that I hired a crew in Las Vegas to fly in to videotape a live luncheon. And I'll tell you what, it's a 28-minute video, and I get a standing ovation every time I play the thing. It is that darn good. You get it as part of the kit. And this is new. I mean, I did it a few years ago, but I've never offered it in a package. I just started doing it like a month ago. And then pitfalls and costly mistakes guide, things you want to avoid, you get that. Bonus today, for day only, you get me for 90 days on a hotline. I want you to go through the first 8 audios when you get them. And normally on the audios, if you order now this afternoon, I will send you the 24 audios that go with this so we can get a jump start. You go through the first 8, and then Monday I will ship the rest of the system, the home study system, to you, and you're going through these audios. And so by the time the system gets there, you have a good handle on the audios. Okay. Now this here, bonus for today only. What's that mean? That means that if I get too many folks, I can't handle everybody. Family likes to see me every now and then. So what I've done there is I want people that take action. So I need to have you take action on this by midnight tonight, or this bonus goes away. Okay, so it's limited to the folks that take action today. So what you're getting is this: the first three items up there are the key to making this happen. One is the premium system out there where we attract, convert people into private money lenders. The second one is the wealth system, which I filled the gap in our industry on managing lenders. The third one is SEC audios plus more. So I've got audios out there on those 24. There's on a few SEC audios in there, and that is it's like a three-legged stool. Okay, those are the three parts. And then as I go down through this, the 90-day hotline, that starts anytime you want, by the way. But just sign up for the systems to now when I show you how. 1 million private lenders list, SEC matrix, a customizable forms tool that I talked about, the live investor video, the audio. Somebody's out there, Stacy. Can you kill them? Kill the audio? All right. Behind the scenes and investor planning. Pitfall and costly mistakes, 12 questions and answer report. And I didn't talk to you about this, but you get free upgrades for life. Now, two things. I see other folks charge for that. Number one, other speakers, and I see other folks not ever offering this to you. I have always offered free upgrades because over years, things change. And I'll tell you what I did yesterday is I've had a student from 2008, and I asked him about if he wanted an upgrade, and he was exuberant. And so I am shipping his products Monday. And so you get free upgrades from me. If something changes over time, which his did, then I want to make sure you got the most up-to-date stuff. You don't hear that from anybody. You don't hear that from any other speaker. That's $10,267 of value. Jim Bryant, great guy. He said, "I pretty much a roadmap for how to raise capital from private investors. Alan Course lays it out in a systematic manner. Nothing's left to the imagination. You just follow the roadmap, and in a 24-hour period, $855,000 was committed from only 3 phone calls." How'd you like to make 3 phone calls and have nearly $1 million show up? That'd rock your life, wouldn't it? Look, here's what you're living with today without private money. And this will make you sick. You need to get rid of this stuff. Listen to this. I got 2 slides here that'll blow you away. Credit checks, long applications, submitting paperwork, paying appraisal fees, ceilings on your income, nail biter timelines, losing deals. It goes on. Long waits for approvals. You hate that. High cost for interest. You hate that. High closing costs. You hate that. Padded fees. You hate that. Having to follow their rules. I would think you'd hate that. Balloon payments. You hate that. And origination and compliance fees, which will make you sick. That's what you're living with right now. Private money doesn't have any of those. None of those. I've also got a 3-day boot camp. I want to tell you about it briefly. We give away certificates, by the way, graduation certificates. Why? Because I want you to start your credibility kit. The guy kneeling down on the right, he's a movie star in Flipping Boston. Where do you think he learned how to buy the houses? Right at my event. This is before he was on TV. So what I cover is the 12 steps to private money on day 1. We count the money raised. We raise money right at the event. That's my point. So on those folks that you just saw, within the first 24 hours, we raised money and we counted it up. I go through on day 2, constructing, presenting offers, locating pre-screening, and following up. And day 3, the SEC rules, closing the deals, office paperwork, and IRA. Now, in every single boot camp, I have students who have acquired their first private lender. How much? They've raised over $500 million in first 24 hours. Think about that. Since a lifetime of my event. So I had this guy call up. His name's Carl. And he said, "Are you for real?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm for real." I said, "Why are you asking me that, Carl?" He said, "Well, I heard good things about you, and I'm coming to your event, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to come, if it's a sell-a-thon, or if I don't get any private lenders." I said, "Well, first off, it's not a sell-a-thon. I teach my heart out." The second item is that I can't guarantee if you're going to get private lenders. I don't know the people you got, and whether you're even going to try. But I said, a lot of people do. He says, "Okay." He said, like we talked for a little bit. And he said, I'm coming. So Here's a video he gave me. Listen to this thing. This is right after he.
I came here prepared. We had listened to the CDs as Alan had instructed us. So I came here and did the homework. We were working the homework prior to arriving. We knew what we were going to have to do the first evening in terms of our assignment. And so I came prepared and actually got commitments for $40 million of capital. So I just really encourage those that are listening to my words here. If you're not committed to go.
Could you use an extra $40 million? He raised $42 million in private money at that event. Then I saw him 9 months later, and he had raised another 230 on top of the 42. Every time I see him, he gives me a hug and a kiss. He's a happy guy. Here's what it'll do for you, my system is create the best funding for your business that you could have, a peace of mind that money is a phone call away. You build a business any size you want, create flexible funding programs, eliminates fear of losing a deal. You got more time to do what you want because you're not waiting on a bank or hard money lenders. Put your real estate funding in order. It naturally puts them in order on the 3 steps. On the boot camp, I will personally train you on the best way to get all the private lenders you will ever need. Your first private lender will pay for the system many times over. On your here's the math. If you do a deal with private money, you could profit $18,000. How do I figure that out? Well, 140, that is 12 times your money out there on the investment with just one deal, My SEC attorney normally shows up on day 3 and we team coach. We raise money in 24 hours. You will not find that anywhere on planet Earth. I've done it since 2003. You learn to attract, convert, and manage private lenders. You get the required paperwork. You got the rule book, and you learn to manage the whole private lender process. Let me be candid. You should invest in the workshop for other reason than to fix your funding that's out of order. The event is coming up May 12 and 14. You want to write that down. And if you can't make that one, then you can come to the next one. Okay. We typically do 3 a year. I'm going to give you a special bonus. I talked about Brad, where he became my private lender. I'm going to give you this also. There's 3 audios, a form CD, and a manual. This is how I buy, and what I didn't have time to talk about how I sell. This is also, you see, limited offer. That is if you get everything by midnight tonight, just like my 90-day offer. You're going to get a boot camp manual. You can return forever for free. They're tax deductible, and a completion certificate. Okay, it's priceless. Oh, on the first boot camp in May, it's going to be virtual. Okay, as you can see, it's a lot of training tools and resources, templates, scripts, plus coaching and mentoring with a lot of support that I just went through. There's a low investment available to you today. I had 2 choices. One is to make the investment really low and sell a lot more of them, which would be less work for me and information, but information products don't create transformation. It's very important. When you have to figure it out on your own. Choice 2 is what I did. Charge a little bit more to help you get results that will make a difference, which makes us both happier. So it's $14.97 to get the whole thing, the home study system and the live event, the 3-day event, $14.97. It's a steal for that. Now, let me tell you about Alan Mosier. Look at that letter he wrote. Isn't that a beautiful letter? He said, "Thank you for your program on private money funding. It made me a millionaire at 30, and today at 33, I'm a multimillionaire. Thank you." Look at the way he wrote the thank you on the letter. The guy's an artist. Look, I'm going to make this very simple for you. The $14.97 is the best offer because it includes the 3-day event, and the home study system. Or you can get the same thing, but it's a payment plan. Now that payment plan is going to be a couple $100 more. It's 3 pays. I will ship the system Monday, and then you'll have 2 more pays and 30 days apart. Or you can just get the home study system if you'd rather do that. But with the boot camp being virtual, I would think every one of you, it'd be like this for getting training. So, or $9.97 for the millionaire system only. It's your choice. And so how do you do it? You go to satlanta.site, satlanta.site right now, www.satlanta.site, and get signed up. I need to have you do that right now. Right now. So just click down on your browser and let's get started on this. And I'll ship out Monday. I'll ship you the 24 audios yet today. Okay. So you can get a jump start, get you started right now. Atlanta site, SITE. Now, when you do that, you're going to go to this page. And on this page, you see it's $9.97, but where you start to see that red ink down there, there's a little box there. And if you click on that little box, what'll happen is it'll open up a page where you can choose between the $14.97 full pay, which includes the boot camp, or the payment plan. Okay. So, PayPal. I wanted to just say that, if things are tight, if you want to do 6 months free financing, maybe PayPal could do that for you. So you got to go work with them. Okay. Clardy Richardson out of Texas. He said, after hearing the information yesterday, I made the phone calls. Each of them said put down for each of the houses, which totaled up to $1.1 million. So he got $1.125 million. Think he was happy? That was in 24 hours when he did it, within 24 hours, and he only made 3 calls. Wouldn't it be nice if I put your testimonial here? Just imagine people seeing your story in a month or two. What would that do for your success? And you could share that with people. Look, your return on investment, you've met some of my students and heard how they were able to access millions of dollars in private money by using my system. So the question isn't if you'll get a return on your investment, it's how much. Would it be, 50 times to $14.97, 100 times, or 1,000, which would be $1 million. Okay. Look, you got 7 days to check this out. 7 days. If it's not for you, I'll give you a prompt and courteous refund. Now, on the 7 days, it doesn't start until the system is at your doorstep. So when the system hits your doorstep, then you got 7 days to tell me if you're in or out. And I'll tell you, I'll be real candid. It is rare. It is rare that somebody returns the system. So it's, just very simple. And why would you return it? Look what it does for you. Minneapolis. I was getting ready to speak on stage for 250 folks. And I had one of my students, Henry Grant, get the mic, and he told the whole room how my system had changed his life. And he now has $7 million of private money. How would you like to tell me that year from now or 6 months from now? Think about that. He said, I was able to raise $7 million in private money, and it completely changed my life. Now there's Henry in the white shirt and his family. You see his family's all laughing and they're happy. Well, they're happy because Henry's got $7 million of private money. Now it's up to you. If all this program does for you is make your business profitable or more profitable, gives you a gentle kick in the butt, enables you to do your first real estate deal, and gives you access to millions of dollars, would that be worth it to you? Well, I would think so. The question is it worth it to find out? If it does even half of what it did for my students, it will pay for itself many times over on your first deal. So what kind of action are you going to take? I'd go to satlanta.site, not .com, .site. And let's get started on this. satlanta.site. Okay. So I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go for questions here. All right. You guys, I see you pounded the question box. Hey, Stacy, are you around? Can you read these off? Or you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a blessing.
Okay, but if you have any questions, put them into the chat and I'll go through them here. Okay.
Looks like they got a bunch.
Yeah. Okay, I'm in Canada. How do I finance the property in the United States?
I have a bunch of students in Canada doing that. Okay. I have a lot of great folks in Canada. So you got to, when you're in a different country, there's called a Reg S, as in Sam. You might write that down, go out on the internet, look it up, a Regulation S. And It'll give you information about how to move money from one country to another. Okay, but yeah, good. Yeah, I got great students up there using it. Yeah.
Okay, also, can the web address for the book be shown in the chat? What's the web address for the book?
My green book.
What was it? My,
I need to go look again. I don't want to mess you up.
okay.
Yeah, let me do that. Okay. On the break, I'll look it up. Okay. And I'll stick it in the chat box.
It says, can I get, okay, it says, now I have a closing next week with a hard money lender. Can I get that changed before we close? So you please
Well,
give the book information. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you're tight on this, and I want you to get the system and not wing it with private money. And the purpose of the system is to attract and convert people into private money lenders to be able to manage them, but also just important is to keep you safe. So I want to make sure that that you follow the rules. But getting lenders, you can get them very quick, especially if you're working with people that you know, and they want to get a high rate of return, just like my mom. I mean, it took me like 5 minutes to convince mom. So it can be very simple and very quick. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Okay, if an investor needs their funds back before their initial commitment term, do you discount the principal as you have replaced the funds?
When somebody wants their money back, I give them all their principal and all accrued interest back. I don't discount anything. But what I do is on the new lender coming in is I will cover all the funds that I am getting ready to send to the prior lender, the closing costs, which are dirt cheap. They're the cheapest you can get because it's all cash. And then, as you would expect, I will borrow a little bit extra from my pocket. Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, and then also, let's see. Rebecca has a couple of questions she wanted to unmute herself, which I think you could just unmute yourself, Rebecca, now.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Or no, not Rebecca. I'm sorry. Who was it? I'm sorry. It was not Rebecca. It was somebody else. Whoever it was.
It was me, Stacey. Hi, Stacey. Alan, hi. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions?
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, excellent. I was so engrossed in you. Couple of questions, Alan. Basically, in your previous slide, you mentioned that once you've spoken to the lender and you've said to them that, look, you find the deals, you'll call them up in 4 to 6 weeks' time,
right,
for the funding. But with my case, Alan, because I've got the deals already. What would I say to the lender so not to lose the deal?
Well, when you say you got the lender already?
No, I've got the deals.
I've got the deals. You got the deals.
Flow. Yeah,
deals in Chicago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now you need a private lender.
Correct.
Okay. And so what you want to do is use that path to wealth that I talked about, and use those scripts.
Right.
Okay. And the most important thing in that, they're all important. I shouldn't say it this way, maybe most important, but the script, miniature script that I like the most is, are you ready to get involved?
Right.
So for you to get to that point, though, you got to give them some information.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
And so that's why I walk you through those steps. Okay. On the magic words, the 30-second commercial.
You got it.
And then if they want to dig down more, you need to be ready for that. And you need to be ready, preferably with the audio business card. If you had the audio business card in a special report, it will sell it for you.
Right. Got you.
And then all you got to do is call them up.
Like 7 to 10 days later or something like that. And
you got it. Yeah. You give them the audio and you give them the special report. And then 7 to 10 days later, you call them up. And I find out that that's the Achilles heel that people drag their feet. And I talk to them, a month later, and they haven't called the person yet. And here they do all the work up front. So you just say, do you have any questions? And then at some point in the conversation, say, are you ready to get involved? and go from there.
And to go from there and see what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because by that time, Al, they would have had all the information. They would have known a bit about me as well, what I'm doing in real estate. So when I've come to speak to them after 7 to 10 days, they'll either say yes or no, and then
Right.
go
Right.
from there. Yeah.
There's one more thing that I would encourage you to do is because where you're at, you're going to be doing email all the time because you're
Right.
over in England.
Correct.
I would get your credibility kit put together.
Right. Okay.
And put those certificates in there.
With you. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And email that at the same time.
Right. So email that alongside with the audio and the special report. So add the credibility, add all of them in. So
All three.
The fullest, all three. They've got full information. So then when I call them up, they're ready to.
They got a real good background. That credibility kit will cinch it for you.
Right. Brilliant. Thank you, Alan. And a couple of other questions, Alan, very quickly. Alan, you talk about paying the lender on the 15th of each month.
Right.
Does that mean the lender needs the interest? If I go for a simple interest, monthly simple interest, does that mean the lender needs the money on the 15th, or do I wire the money from the 15th onwards?
It's whatever you choose. You're in control.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the reason I picked that, like I said, is if I got a lender, you're doing what, apartment complexes?
Exactly.
Right. So you got rents coming in. Okay. And so, so I didn't want the mortgage on the first because, I didn't want to reach into my pocket to fund the mortgage. And so I took it down to the 15th. I wouldn't mind if you go to the 21st or the 25th or something like that. Gives you a chance to get all this money in. Okay, for your rents, and then you're gonna wire it out.
I really love that 15th. That's a pretty genius, because it gives you time to get the rents, so you're not paying from your own pocket.
That's a great point, because so many of us, what I say is people that are in real estate, you're so used to this first of the month,
Exactly.
and that's when the banks will pay and all this kind of stuff, and it's painful if somebody doesn't pay you, and so so I learned early on to do that. And there's so many things in my system that I didn't even have time to talk about like that make it a huge benefit to us, because it's little techniques like that can make a huge difference in your life. And that's one of them.
And Ella, I understand you so clearly, because here in London, because we've got apartments and everything else, you get tenants that they don't pay exactly on the month. It's about 5 days late. Oh, my boss, I'm leaving my job. My girlfriend's left me. Whatever, 100 million. Someone knocked the dog. Oh my God. So I can see that. So you've got the time on your hands. Have enough time to get the rent so you can pay your lender.
You got it.
Right.
100%.
One last question, Stacey, I do apologize in advance. With regards to your 37 slide PowerPoint presentation, do you provide that to us as part of your kit? So when I do a one-to-one or a group meeting, I can actually go through it.
Right. Zoom. Yeah. In your case, you're going to be doing Zoom.
Yep.
And so, yeah. Oh yeah. You get the 37 slides, and they're killer. Now I'll tell you, let me make a caution. I was at Phoenix, and I had a couple that wanted to talk to me out in the hallway on the slides.
Right.
And they were really proud because they took my slides and they changed the colors and some other stuff. And they wanted to brag about the slides because they thought they were so pretty. But then I asked them, have you used mine yet that made $1 million?
Yeah, I'm with you.
And they said, no.
No,
and they said, well, why don't you try mine first? They're already done for you. They're already filled out.
Forget messing with the colors. Try mine first.
You got it.
The last question is the boot camp, which is on the 12th and 14th of May. Is that live is that live in person? I'm going
to be teaching just like this, and it's virtual.
Right.
So you can be sitting in the chair that you're in right now, and you can attend.
Right. Got you. I'm with you. Right. Do you have any plans to do it in person when I think?
Yeah, we're going to move into that as soon as I feel comfortable going out and, without COVID and stuff. Right.
You got it. With you. And Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Stacey. Itself.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Okay. We still have a couple more, Alan.
Yeah, sure.
Are lenders being paid back via closing attorney, and are they put on the HUD?
Oh, everything goes on the HUD.
Yeah. Okay. Everything on the HUD. Okay. Please talk more about getting term insurance, especially when getting lots of property.
getting term insurance. What are we talking about?
You mentioned like to get term. I remember I heard you like you mentioned term insurance for like to cover like if you die or something and then it's free.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What happens is when we go out and, buy a bunch of properties and we're committed to all this private money out there, a technique that folks could use is to put an insurance policy, term insurance policy, because it's cheaper. If you got $1 million in property, then go out and buy $1 million in term insurance. And then if something goes south, you die, then your family gets $1 million and they can pay off that the lenders, and then they got $1 million free and clear properties. Just a technique and just an option. Yeah.
Okay. Can we
Yes.
also, sorry, okay,
Thank
go
you.
ahead, Rebecca. Or who?
So-
whoever's-
That's Rebecca. Thanks, Vicki.
Alright.
So just to follow up on that question on the term insurance, if somebody says, well, if I loan you this money and then something happens to you, how do I get my money back? Is that how you answer that?
Yes, that's how I cover myself. Yes, you're 100% right.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, if you have
Yeah.
that, so you have to prove to them, or you just tell them, you show them that you have a way to cover that they'll be covered. And
Well,
they'll be taken care of.
some people take your word and some people won't.
Okay.
And so you'd want to show proof.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool technique, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard of that before in estate planning,
Yeah.
where the family inherits term life insurance. They don't inherit things and the trust takes care of that. So I've heard of that before. I can see how that would work. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, one more. Can we also use this process to refinance properties with private lenders?
Yes. And I saw somebody out there talk about businesses. Can they use it in businesses on one of the chats here? And the answer is yes. You can use it on businesses too. I got students doing that. In fact, let me share something with you. When I speak in California, I have movie producers in the crowd, and they are there and get my system because they want to get private money to fund their movies. I've got a group here just before COVID over in Columbus, Ohio, that was setting up a big concert with big name, folks there. And they had to shut it down because of COVID, but they were using private money to fund that too. The small businesses is a great one for that. You want to buy a pizza shop. Henry Grant that I talked about, he's the 7 million that he's got is he uses a lot of that on a hard money lender. He's a hard money lender, and a lot of my students will do that. I spoke for 450 mortgage brokers in Kansas City, and they were there to learn about my system, and then they would get private money through my system and use that on to loan out. And so it's just the flexibility is huge. Now I also have, I'll tell you one last one. I also have students that buy credit card debt. So these credit card companies will roll together $1 million or $5 million or $3 million of dormant credit card debt, and they'll sell them off for pennies on the dollars. Well, where do the folks get the money to fund that? They get them through private money. I don't like that because there's no way to secure. I like having folks be secure when I'm doing business with them. So that's why I secure the money with real estate, and that's what I talk about a lot. But but some people want to go out and buy credit card debt, and you can do that with actually Stacy doing what you guys PPM and set that up and buy it's just unsecured things, but you can make a lot of money that way.
Okay, I
Okay.
think that's it.
All right, good deal. 10 minutes.
One more question about the boot camp and all of the
Yeah.
good stuff.
Okay.
So, on the form, it has the Millionaire Home Study System that I saw you put up.
Mhm.
And, I don't see where it is where, the 90 days with you is. I don't see that in there. Where is that?
It's between you and I, and And in your system, when you get it, I will put a certificate in there with my personal email to where you can trigger it whenever you want.
Okay, and
And
so that,
I'll tell you what, I want you to put your phone number down, because many times you'll ask me a question or multiple questions, and I'll pick up the phone and call you and give you a lot of details on what I want you to do. And it's a huge help. And the other thing too is I'm very gracious with my time on helping people out on getting them going and on the 90-day